So good evening, everyone. I am so honored that each and every one of you is here tonight. I am a big supporter of MIST because I think that Clayton and Bruce in particular should just get a cot and move in. Because, but for those of you who haven't been here before, it is a very special place. There are many people who put it together, but the one I know best is Walter Edwards, and I want to thank him for making MIST such a very special place. Thank you, Walter. And I want to thank Mediba for the food, and then Silicon Harlem, and we'll talk about them more, is doing the webcasting tonight. They're a very special, special organization. So it is Black History, but you should also know that I have to wear red every single day because it's also Lunar New Year. And so every single day for a month, I got to find something red to wear, just so you know. It doesn't really match, but I have no choice. So happy Black History Month, and also happy Lunar New Year, just so you know. It's two wonderful occasions tonight. But I am honored to be here. The spotlight generally points at the past to showcase those whose race has unjustly denied them their rightful respect and esteem. But this year, because of my past interest and love for what technology is doing, I want to talk about the future, to recognize contributions that will positively impact the lives of our borough residents. I know there are other boroughs, but I only care about Manhattan, I'll just tell you, for years to come. So if you look at the data collected by USA Today last fall, it shows that the obstacles African Americans face in working for the nation's top tech firms, and I know we have some very special ones here today represented, but at Apple and eBay, about 7% of the workforce was African American last fall, and at Google and Facebook and Yahoo and Twitter and LinkedIn, it was even lower, but I know that we're going to work on that. So tonight, our office is honoring 6 influential and very, very special African American voices and thought leaders in Manhattan's tech community. Individuals whose accomplishments are reason for optimism in the face of the challenges that we all face. And in fact, one of our honorees is one of Google's very special individuals in the African American community, and we will meet that person in a little while. Technology is incredibly important. I think that's why some of you are here. Some of you are here because you want to celebrate this wonderful occasion, but it touches every aspect of our society. I always remember that Bruce in particular was at many of my early technology committees in the city council, and we were talking about issues that no one thought were relevant, and now today they are. And I remember this guy named de Blasio. He was a member of the committee, and once in a while he showed up. Now he thinks he knows everything about technology. I just want to throw that out. But I have been an advocate for public Wi-Fi for a long time. We talked about it a long time ago, and as borough president, I want to see not technology for technology's sake, but I want these new opportunities to reach everyone. And so tonight's honorees will be introduced to you by colleagues who know them well. I have the special honor of introducing 2 of our visionaries, incredibly talented individuals, and I've known them for a long time. Clayton Banks and Bruce Lincoln have taken Silicon Harlem. It's a broadband technology initiative from meetup to movement. They seek to provide many residents of all of Harlem and beyond with affordable broadband. Silicon Harlem was an early advocate for free municipal Wi-Fi and for much more. They've accomplished a lot. They work to provide education, access, equipment, and support to community anchored institutions. They help to create jobs. They have created jobs, and they empower people with technology. They have piloted the Apps Youth Leadership Academy. I'm sure they'll talk to you about that, to teach 20 students to build smartphone apps and develop tech startups. They are working, all of us need to work with them to develop an innovation center to support the rapid development of tech companies and social ventures committed to creating applications here in Harlem. They understand that if you can create one tech job, you can create additional tech jobs because there are jobs that cluster around those jobs. Bruce was essentially entrepreneur in residence at Columbia. He drove us crazy explaining what he was doing for years. We never understood it. Now we're beginning to. He served as a tech advisor to the Clinton White House and was a member of the President's Technology Advisory Committee, and he's a member of the Mayor's Technology Advisory Committee. Clayton has held leadership positions with Ember Media, Showtime Networks, Comedy Central, Sega Video Games. And last year, all 5 borough presidents from all 5 boroughs appointed him to the city's Commission on Public Information and Communications, and that COPIC will focus on utilizing open data and implementing other municipal technology policies. I want to also thank Verizon, and I'm sure they'll talk about it, because they're working with MIST to try to make MIST even more tech savvy and a place where people want to come in terms of technology. When I sent out the invitation, needless to say, Verizon sent me a note to remind me to say that, just so you know. So I'm saying it. Clayton and Bruce are the best kinds of leaders Harlem could ever want and New York City could ever want, standing at the crossroads of technology, communications, and civic space. So I'd love them to come up, and it's a pleasure to honor them here tonight. Thank you so much. So this is Clayton right here, Banks, and a small gift for you also. So we'll keep it for you, but we want you to know that you are very special. And Bruce, this is yours. You're equally special, and we thank you very much. Now we know what you do. We'll get out of the way. Okay, go ahead.
So I want to give a couple of shout outs. I want to give a shout out to Cheryl Hill, who's been supporting me for the past 10 years. And she didn't know what I was talking about when we first met, but she still stuck with me. I think she's talking about now. I want to give a shout out to Marta Vega, one of our true cultural visionaries, Melly Capote of the Caribbean Cultural Center. And one of the projects that we just recently launched with them, besides the Absolute Youth Leadership Academy, is called Mi Querido Barrio. And excuse my poor Spanish, but it means my beloved community. And working with Clayton Banks and artists tied into the Caribbean Cultural Center, we just launched the first augmented reality network. It basically lets you go to Spanish Harlem and go to virtual digital landmarks that will let you basically know about the history of El Barrio, going all the way back to its pre-colonial history, where it was a Native American settlement, and all the way up, of course, to the heyday of Tito Puente. And so this is a type of, if you will, sort of a user-generated community knowledge base that we're looking to grow. And so a lot of what we also do is not simply work with the tech companies. We also work with our local nonprofits, because you have to have culture as well as the technology, or else we're not going to maintain what is, in essence, what Harlem is all about. And we're going to take that into the future. I want to hand that off now to my partner, Clayton Banks.
I'm going to look this way a little bit, just because we feel ignored, maybe. I don't know. But we are excited and thrilled to get any kind of recognition. But I want to definitely thank my wife, Susan Banks. Susan, could you raise your hand over there? We've been together for almost 20 years, so it's like a lot of fun. I know I got married when I was 15 or something like that. By the way, if you want to text some of your friends, we're streaming this evening, and the URL is bit.ly/MBP Harlem. Manhattan Borough President Harlem, right? MBP Harlem. So you can let your folks know they can watch this live, and this will also be available after tonight. I want to especially thank Harlem in and of itself, all the nonprofits, all the residents. Bruce and I have had Silicon Harlem as an idea for many, many years. We started thinking about this in a very sort of intellectual way back in 2008, trying to work with Barack Obama on his broadband stimulus package. We made it to the final round in our proposal, but we did not get funded. and we sort of put Silicon Harlem on the shelf. What we realized over the years is that it wasn't about just talking to DC. We had to talk to the community. And once we really started these meetups, and with Gale supporting us, and Inez Dickens, and Charlie Rangel, and the mayor's office, all of the folks who started to support us, we had it coming from both sides. We had the DC, the state, the city, but the community started to come together, and this space has played a large role in that. We found a way to get all of us in the same room and all of us to start talking. So we've been humbled by that experience. Last night we celebrated our 2-year anniversary. And when we started Silicon Harlem, some of you in the room know co-working spaces have been around for a long time. Downtown, Brooklyn, a lot of places. When we started Silicon Harlem 2 years ago, there were 0 co-working spaces in Harlem. 0. Now there are 6 distributed throughout Harlem. That's exciting. That's growth. That's what we wanted to see. That's what's happening. We're very excited about that, and we're going to keep it going. Gale quickly mentioned the Apps Youth Leadership Academy. We put 20 kids through a STEM entrepreneurship program, curriculum written by Bruce Lincoln and endorsed by Columbia University and others. We together taught the course. All the kids practically had 100% attendance during the summer. And we primarily focused on sophomores and juniors, but we had 4 or 5 seniors. 3 of our seniors have already been early accepted into college. So we're seeing it happen, and these are people that are focused on STEM. We have had great partners throughout the last couple of years. We hope to get a lot more. We've done joint events with Google. We've done things with Verizon. We've been very aggressive about making sure that this is an inclusive strategy that we use with Silicon Harlem. So at the end of the day, what we like to say, it's really not about just us. This is about the community. And we know that this model can be replicated. We see it in places like Ferguson and Gary, Indiana, places where this is desperately needed, where people can come together around technology to create jobs, as Gale sort of indicated. So I'll close by saying simply, I'm very humbled by this award, mainly because it's coming from Gale Brewer. And I say that because, like many of you, I know her history around technology. And I have followed her for many, many years, and we've been in these type of rooms. And in the past, it hasn't always been very diverse. But we're seeing it happen. We're seeing it happen not just in Harlem, but around the country. And it's through her leadership, in this city in particular, that has made that happen. So whatever award I'll ever get will never match up to the one that I get from Gale Brewer. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Our next presenter is Barbara Askins. Barbara is head of the 125th Street Business Improvement Districts. She's a wonderful friend, and she is going to introduce a very special Kathryn Finney. Barbara.
Good evening, everyone. First, I would like to thank my dear friend, Manhattan Borough President Gale Brewer, and Athena Moore and Tori for giving me this opportunity to introduce Kathryn Finney. Kathryn Finney is a 2012 tech entrepreneur, founded Digital Undivided, a social enterprise whose programs increase participation of urban communities, especially women, in the digital space. Kathryn Finney, Digital's Undivided Focus 100 conference, held in New York City every year, has been held as the city's most diverse tech conference in the city, actually in the United States. Ms. Finney received a 2013 Champion of Change Award from the White House for her work and making tech more inclusive, and was named to Ebony 2013 list of the 100 most influential African Americans in the United States. Miss Finney's lifestyle blog, The Budget Fashionista, was named by MSN as one of the web's 100 most useful sites. Kathryn Finney, I met her when she came to my office, and she wanted to talk to me about the importance of women in the tech space, and not as workers, but as entrepreneurs. She was dedicated, and she brought to me all of the challenges that she faced with people not believing in her vision. And what caught my attention is her tenacity, her willingness to fight whoever brought an obstacle, her willingness to put forth not only her knowledge, which she does have, but also her financial support if necessary. This has brought other people to the forefront. But most importantly with Kathryn is she's not going to allow you to be around her and you don't grow technically. So if you're going to be a friend of Kathryn, you have to get your act together. I have 2 minutes, so I need to tell you I am in the Kathryn Finney's fan club. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And I'd like to introduce to you Miss Kathryn Finney.
Stand away from the mic.
Okay, please stand here.
Good evening, everyone. I am so incredibly humbled to be here and to be in this room. And I like to take this moment that I have, not to so much talk about myself. You can Google me. There's a lot out there. But to talk about the people whose shoulders I stand on and who are the reason why I'm actually here today. And I like to go way, way back to 1922. My great-grandfather, my great-grandmother, owned a small restaurant in what was called the Greenwood section of Oklahoma. And they were thriving. They had a great restaurant, they had family, everyone was doing well, until they were forced to leave. Many of you know that as the Tulsa riots. Many of you know Greenwood as Black Wall Street. And so they were forced to move their family to Oklahoma, where my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my great-grandmother proceeded to put every last one of their children, all 8 of their children, including all of their women children, through college. This was in the 1930s and 1940s. And it's on their shoulders that I stand. In 1970, my grandmother, who was a teacher, who left her job as a teacher to be a mother, went through a horrible divorce with my grandfather. Many of you women here probably can relate to that. She was forced to move, forced to leave everything she knew and move to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is from Kansas. Believe it or not, that's a long way. And from there, created her own business. She became a seamstress, sewed clothes for Cab Calloway, sewed clothes for a lot of dignitaries in Wisconsin and Chicago. And it's on her shoulders that I stand. In 1980, my father was a brewery worker in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and the brewery shut down. He found himself without a job. He didn't have a high school education, didn't have a college education, but what he had is he had this inner drive, he had this inner power. He knew that he was somebody. And so he found himself at a local workforce development course called OIC and took a data entry class by some guy from IBM who thought, he was just giving an hour to this displaced factory workers in the hood, just doing his good job. But as a result of that, he found that he had this passion for technology. And he took that and he ran with it. And he got a job as a data entry clerk in Minneapolis, Minnesota, moving my family from Milwaukee to Minneapolis. Believe it or not, that was a big culture shock. And from there, he worked really hard, became a senior engineer at Microsoft. And when he passed, he was an executive at EMC. And it's on his shoulders that I stand, and I'm the reason why I'm here. In 2001, I met a young man who was the first person I'd ever met who could hold his own with me in an argument. And throughout my entire career, has pushed me to do the best, who has never once told me that I could not do anything, who has always been there for me, always showed up. Always in the back, always quiet, always a gentle giant like he is tonight. And Tobias, right, my husband, it is on his shoulders that I also stand. And in 2012, I had this idea to just do this conference for Black women in tech that look like me. And I went to someone who had worked with for a while. We had worked on my other company, the Budget Fashionista, which I sold. And I told her about this idea, and she was like, yo, I'm in. And, she's from Brooklyn, Long Island. So she really said, yo, I'm in. And we started this thing that turned into this whole big thing. It led to awards and so forth. And that's not even really the important part. The awards, that's great, but it's the impact that we've been able to have together. And I want to take a moment to thank Darlene. I want to thank Denitria, who has been a vital part of our family. And I also want to thank Simone, who is coming into our family. And we have a lot of great things going on. And what we've been able to do together is far more than what I've been able to do by myself. We have been able to get over 50% of our Focus Fellows funding. Virtually all the Black women that have raised Series A funding, that's over $2 million, there's not very many, have come through our program. We reached over 1,000 people in 2013, and we continue to grow. We have programs with United Negro College Fund this year. We have things that we're doing with Essence, and we also have a really big project that we have coming up later this year, which is our Focus Fellow 16-week incubator and accelerator program that we're really excited. But I wouldn't be able to do any of that if it had not been for those shoulders that I've been standing on. And I want to take a moment to thank you all and thank all of you here for your continued support. And I'm truly humbled by this honor. And thank you, President Brewer.
Thank you very much. The next honoree will be introduced by Katie Knight, who is Head of Public Affairs at Google. She will be introducing Marcus Mitchell, and I want to thank, although he's not here, William Floyd, who's very much part of Google. And just so you know, he was my intern 100 years ago. And the paper that he worked on, those of you at Google may not know this, was on commercial rent. So I would say the more things change, the more they stay the same. Thank you very much.
Yeah, if you want to have a good time, just ask Gale for some stories about William Floyd, and you will have a great night. So I'm introducing Marcus Mitchell, and it's an incredible honor to introduce someone who I get to work with, almost every day, because he is just always there, always present. And I do community affairs as my job, and it's a job that I love. But Marcus, he helps the community because he is a member of the community and because that's just the sort of person that he is. Marcus Mitchell is a senior engineering director at our Google New York office. He works in the ads and commerce product area, focusing on payments products, particularly Google Wallet. Previously at Google, he's worked on the global payments platform that underpins our consumer commerce efforts, as well as Google.org projects, such as the Crisis Response Team and the One Today app, search projects such as web history, personalization, recommendations, and infrastructure. And he was a part of the team that launched Google Checkout, one of Google's first non-advertising commerce initiatives. Before joining Google, there's life before Google, he worked at BA Systems and Plumtree Software. He had a long career in tech as vice president of engineering at Plumtree, and he also worked at a search engine startup called Ripfire and a special effects company called Digital Domain. Oh, and by the way, he also has a PhD from Caltech and a BA from Harvard, because why not? Also at Google, though, he acts as an advisor for the bio says some, it's really almost all, of our initiatives to increase diversity in computer science and engineering. And he's also an advisory board member of an amazing organization called All Star Code, which is a prep program connecting young men of color to the tech industry. And so there's a wealth of of wonderful things to say about Marcus and the wonderful things that he does. But in typical Google fashion, I asked someone else to help me out. And so I frantically G-chatted a few people and said, what should I say about Marcus? And I'm going to read a quote from my friend Chaz Pratt, who's out here in the audience, who's also a pretty awesome guy, about Marcus. Chaz says, Marcus is not just a leader watching over the troops. He rolls up his sleeves and gets to work with them. At Google, we have a program in conjunction with HBCUs that works to enhance their computer science offerings. We send engineers to teach and consult at the schools. Marcus, as a senior engineer, is a key advisor for the program, but he's also, on multiple occasions, flown out to Atlanta or DC to sit in the classrooms, meet with faculty, and support Google engineers on site. He's dedicated and thoughtful and stands out amongst leaders. At Google, a director's calendar is always full and usually requires a dedicated administrator just to juggle timing. Even in this intense situation, Marcus has found hours and occasionally days to devote to support programs like this, which are technically extracurricular. The truth is, without the leadership he provides, these initiatives suffer greatly. In addition to work on that program, Google in Residence, Marcus is truly all. There's not a lunch or a mentoring day or a hackathon that he won't try to make it to. He's really everything that you could ask for in an advisor and just a wonderful friend of the community and a great guy to work with every day. So with that, here's Marcus.
Wow, thank you, Katie, for that amazing introduction. And thank you, Gale Brewer, for inviting me. This is a really incredibly humbling honor. I want to also embarrass a couple of guys who made the mistake of coming out here. Andrew Walker, stand up, wave your hands. Andrew is an engineering director at Google. And Charles Pratt, who contributed that great quote. You got to stand up and wave so people can see you. These are examples of the kinds of engineers at Google that embody so many of the important values that I have and that I try to live by. They're folks who are technically excellent at what they do and would meet any bar, any challenge that you would want to set before them, but who also are able to find time to passionately embrace causes outside their day job in engineering. This is a really incredible time in computer science. Everybody in this room, your life has been touched and changed over the last years and decades by technology, and it's pretty amazing to think about how it's going to change even more. Probably everybody in this room has some kind of a crazy smartphone or something in their pockets, which they wouldn't have had 10 years ago, and just think about what that's going to look like 10 years from now or 20 years from now. And for me, being able to work in this area and impact some of the kinds of products and things that are coming out, and you haven't seen anything yet, we're in early stages. It's an incredible opportunity, and being able to work with folks like Charles and Andrew and being able to work in an environment like Google is great, but you have to do more than that. There's a quote that I think Bill Clinton would go around saying that intelligence and the ability to work hard, to learn is evenly distributed around the world. But opportunity is not evenly distributed around the world. And so when I think about some of the efforts like Silicon Harlem and Digital Undivided and some of the things that Google, in its sometimes small ways tries to do in order to increase opportunity and awareness in this incredibly booming and influential field of computer science and technology in general, I'm reminded that we all have a lot of work to do in smoothing out that opportunity and making opportunities more available to everybody around the world, especially our kids. So I guess I would just encourage you all to encourage your young people, your kids, your brothers, sisters, nephews, the people who are going to be the next Charleses and Andrews. And I would love to get to the point where you read a resume like mine and you say, oh, yeah, that's pretty typical. What would you expect of a black man working in New York City? So we have work to do, but I think we can get there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next presenter is Gale Reeves. That's G-A-L-E. I think we're the only two G-A-L-Es that we each know. And she is the superintendent of District 5 in the school district, and she's going to introduce the very special Valorie Williams.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, G-A-L-E. It is with pleasure that I introduce to you Valorie Robertson Williams. Valorie is a native, or was a native, of Philadelphia, and she was a well-respected executive at a world-renowned corporation. Valorie chose to leave that position to begin a career in education, for which we're very thankful. And she's presently fulfilling her dream and teaching and learning in her craft while serving her community. Central Harlem became her base, and she found her joy in teaching technology basics to children during the day and adults in the evenings. This love of giving back and serving people reach their potential is why she has become an educator in Central Harlem, Community School District 5, and she has served as an educator for over 20 years. She's held positions such as district-wide technology staff developer, technology coordinator, and she's presently the technology teacher and data specialist at the Henry Highland Garnett School, PS 175. Valorie facilitates the Beaumont Foundation of America's Wireless Laptop Research-Based Learning Project in one of the Harlem schools selected to participate in its grant project. She also works with Carmel Hill, teaching children how to read by using their web-based interactive program called Accelerated Reader. She's provided support for a distance learning initiative. Through much of Valorie's work, she is currently also piloting Schoolable, an interactive reading and math site in her classes. And through the use of this program, one of our students not only showed improvement in his recent English and math exams, but he's also become the #1 student scorer in the United States this past January. Valorie has received awards from the Black Fashion Museum, the Martin Luther King Democratic Club, the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, Renaissance Learning Incorporated, and the Key Women of America Incorporated. As someone who thinks that she's always willing to learn, she consistently, and I can attest to this, always she's attending and expanding upon her learning, attending seminars, workshops, and classes, most recently Microsoft's and code.org. Valorie holds both a Master's of Science degree in Education and a Master's in Supervision and Administration from the City College of New York. Please join me in congratulating Valorie Williams.
main thing. Thank you so much. I'm just so honored and so humbled to be amongst such dignitaries. I mean, you guys are just awesome, and I just thank you, Borough President Brewer, for allowing me to be in their presence. And I give greetings to my Harlem family. Just thank you for being here. I thank Borough President Brewer for her tenacity and being so supportive of education and technology. And I thank our superintendent of District 5, who has really been steadfast in technology and making sure that we're getting the equipment that we need. And believe it or not, she brought in distance learning to elementary schools. So you know that's something. I'm really, really appreciative of that. I'd like to thank our elected officials, because they really have been trying to support technology and support the things that we need in our schools, specifically Congressman Rangel, Senator Bill Perkins, Inez Dickens, who has really brought in a library and also equipment into our auditorium, so our kids are able to really appreciate technology. And also Assemblyman Keith Wright, who has also contributed to our school. I thank my Harlem Week family, my Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce family, my Community Board 10 family, and I thank my coworkers who have come in here to support me also, especially Ms. Gibbs, who waits for me every morning to make sure I get to school on time. Thank you, Ade and Val, my son and my daughter. I love you very much. Thank you, my husband, who has supported me as I stay up late at night, trying to figure out lesson plans to make them interesting for our children. Thank you, Lloyd. And I want to thank Lucille, who has been pushing me, and Tori, who I just met, and Athena from Borough President Brewer's office. I really just want to share with you how important it is to support our children. We have children who have not been exposed to people like you, who really need role models, and we need all of you to really support both Gales so that we can get the equipment in that we need, so that we can get our children moving and really level the playing field. It's really, really difficult out there. They're having struggles with reading. They're having struggles at home. And they really need all of you to come in and really help, because you guys are awesome. And our kids would be so, so happy for you to come in and just share with them, you know, what you've done and what you're doing. We're getting ready to start some programs with code.org. And I just met someone here tonight who's going to help me with robotics. So I'm just looking to all of you to help us. And thank you so, so very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next presenter is Carly Meyerson. She's a writer for Jezebel, which you know is an online news site for women's issues, and she was formerly a producer at MSNBC, and she's going to be introducing Jenna Wortham, who's now a columnist for the New York Times Magazine as of last week, but she also knows all about websites and the New York Times more than anybody else in the world.
In the spirit of tonight, I'm going to read this off of my iPhone. Before reading Jenna, I didn't know there were Black people who covered tech. Before reading Jenna, I didn't know that there were women covering tech. In preparation for this intro, I asked her if she was often the only Black person covering tech. I was definitely often the only Black woman covering tech for various outlets, she told me. Before reading Jenna, I thought tech news was boring and stodgy, but Jenna brings a coolness to the industry. Where I see only numbers and codes, Jenna sees trends and massive cultural implications. It is from Jenna that I learned the real importance of emoji. And from a conversation between Jenna and the late David Carr on the New York Times website, I learned about how Facebook was making money using my pictures and my status updates. Jenna's reputation in tech precedes her, but since this is an introduction, I'd be remiss not to mention her achievements. Jenna's writing has appeared in the Hairpin, Vogue, The Morning News, and Fader. She worked as a reporter for the digital section of the tech magazine Wired, for the New York Times as a tech reporter, and has just recently moved over to the New York Times Magazine as a staff writer. But enough of the touting. It's Jenna we all want to hear from. So without further ado, Jenna Wortham.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Yeah. Thank you, President Brewer, for the recognition and the nomination. I really appreciate it. And as I look at this table of just amazing figures, I'm in awe and I'm inspired, and it just feels so amazing to be considered one of your peers. So I just thank all of you and congratulate everyone that is here as well tonight. Yes, we should clap. So I've been sitting here tonight looking around this room and listening to everyone talk, and the word that comes to my mind is community. And community is not something that is easy to feel when you are the only person that looks like you in your place of work, when you're the only person that looks like you that is trying to get your outlet to cover issues of diversity or entrepreneurs' struggles to get funding, especially if they're entrepreneurs of color, and other issues that are incredibly important. And it's not easy, and sometimes, even this week, sometimes I feel like, why am I doing this? You know, maybe I should go somewhere where there are more people that look like me, more women, more people of color, and then I come to things like this, and I remember, you know, why you struggle and kind of why you're in the position you're in and who you're doing it for, which is everybody in this room. And so it's with that I accept this honor because it means so much to me, and it gives me inspiration and hope. And I know it's Black History Month, but I've been lucky and able to mentor a lot of other reporters through the New York Times, and we have a diversity pipeline program called the New York Times Journalism Institute. And even as, you know, the company struggles to adapt to a very digital future and print revenues are declining, even though we're still doing well, we're still in business, but you know, the business is changing. The Times still does support that program, which is incredibly important, and a group of us take time off work and go and mentor young reporters, and a lot of them end up coming to work for the Times, and it is one of the most incredibly important things I do every year, and it matters so much to me. And so I know it's Black History Month, but I would like to, you know, close by saying I've been thinking this month about Black Future Month and the legacy that we're leaving, what we're creating right now, and the hand we reach back to pull others up with us and along with us. And that is what I'm feeling right now, is the inspiration and motivation to keep going on and keep sort of staying in this business and doing what we do, because it is so important. So, and thank you all for coming tonight. So.
You know, I always get in trouble because I always tell FIOS that the reason I don't do Verizon is because of Errol Lewis. And the reason I have Time Warner is because of Errol Lewis. But I have to tell Errol Lewis, who's my friend, this panel is better than any of his guests I've ever seen. So I want to give them a big round of applause and say, Errol Lewis, you got competition. Even though I love you. So this has been an amazing evening. I think for those of us who go to a lot of events, I've never actually seen individuals, both the presenters and the awardees, with the kind of stories and presence and intelligence and future. So one more time, a huge round of applause for everyone. Huge, huge. Wow. I want to just state that Assemblymember Farrell and Controller Stringer both had representatives here, and we were joined earlier by Commissioner Sutton, who's the Veterans Commissioner for the City of New York. She had to leave, but she's working really hard with veterans and looking, along with what Clayton talked about earlier, trying to find the job situation for veterans in tech. And so I think that's why she came, and she's very innovative. I also want to thank from the bottom of my heart the people who put this together from our office, and Tori, Athena, and Lucille in particular. I want to thank you very, very much. So I hope that you understand that we're very serious, particularly about the schools, as the superintendent indicated, and others, in the sense that we're working hard in the taking some of the money that has been allocated in the Bond Act that you all didn't know you voted for, but you did last November, allocating that in a very responsible way. We'd love to get your input. We're putting together a task force to figure out how that money should be spent with the Department of Education. We've also been working hard on the issue of, as we always do, the issue of free Wi-Fi and how it can actually be implemented. It's easier said than done. Years ago, we tried to do it, and other cities tried. Luckily, we didn't make any failures, but we have a lot of work to do. The payphone / hotspot is a beginning, and I give the administration credit, but it's not going to be able to solve the real issues. We have to work with NYCHA, the Housing Authority. I know that there are some wonderful people here tonight who work with NYCHA, and the issue there is the walls are thick. It's hard to get some of the wireless through, but there are people who are working. We've been allocating funding to NYCHA and to work sometimes on the hospital campuses to get some free Wi-Fi. Much thanks, I know Stuart is here, I saw him earlier, Stuart Reed, Urban Technologies. And we're also working just generally on the job front, because as others have stated, if there is this opportunity, we want to make sure people from African American and other communities get the opportunity for these jobs, and it's all about training. It's coding, but it's a lot more than coding, and I think we have to remember that. So my mantra is, it's not technology for technology's sake. It's to be able to have the kind of quality discussions and future that these amazing panelists have brought to us. I also want to thank, as Valorie Williams did, I want to thank Councilmember Inez Dickens, who sent staff member here tonight. From the bottom of all of our hearts, thank you for being here on a cold evening, and onward with technology. Thank you.